I feel like if I ever sold any merch and had it labeled counterfeit merch, I'm probably going to get into trouble with customs. I would not follow the path I followed because the chances of that working out were zero. Like, I would say as close to zero as it could be. I think I just got absurdly lucky.
Today we're joined by a world-class TFT caster, the man behind the mic at events like the Esports World Cup and countless tacticians crowns, and the host of Counter's casual competition Counterfeit. Welcome to the show. It's nice to have you here, man.
Thanks, Yoshi. Oh, it's really nice to be here. I'm very interested to see how combining a game of TFT while being interviewed actually goes. So yeah, I'm optimistic.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot to handle. You're gonna be juggling so many things. But for anyone new to the format, I'll be interviewing Counterfeit here about his casting career while we play a game of Double Up. So I'm gonna get us into queue right now, and while I do that, let's start from the top. How did Counterfeit become your handle or your name? What's like the lore behind your name?
So it's like two different things. There's the first of all, deep imposter syndrome as like perfect name for someone with deep imposter syndrome, and secondly, just that it ended up being that there was a website which shows you the upcoming League of Legends names that were going to expire, and most of them were terrible. But I saw Counterfeit on that list, and I was like, "Oh, that's a good one," and that's literally how I got the name.
So you're like sniping league names, kinda?
Yeah, like,
Ooh.
it's not good. Honestly, I'm thinking about moving to Counter just because I feel like if I ever sold any merch and had it labeled counterfeit merch, I'm probably going to get into trouble with customs.
That's true. Yeah, that's a great origin story. I feel like most people's names have like such a fun story behind them. But I guess...
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I guess let's step back a bit. What originally pulled you into esports casting in the first place? And what made you like stick with it?
Well, I mean, I was a very long time League of Legends player. Also, I think I'm probably going techie reroll based on what I've got initially, just to let you know.
Sure, okay, yeah.
So I was playing... I was just... Okay, I'm just looking at what you've got as well. Okay. So I used to play a lot of League of Legends, and there were some groups that played custom games together. And how it would work out is that you gather as a group of 10, and then you play a game of League of Legends together and have a grand old time. The problem was, though, that if you ever ended up with more than 10 people wanting to play that, and it quite quickly ended up that way, you'd have people being forced basically to sit on the side and not do anything. And I ended up doing that, and I kind of, it was fine watching the games, but I got bored easily. I'm pretty sure I got undiagnosed ADHD. And so me and a couple of other people there decided to start roasting the people playing the League of Legends game as a way to pass the time. And people really liked it. Like, they really enjoyed it. I don't know if it's because they didn't like each other or what it was. But I was like, this is really fun. And then a little while later, I started hanging out with a local university's esports group. And they had a team which were playing in the Newell, which is like one of the UK's. Just a second. Oh,
yeah, take your time.
Okay, I'm gonna do that. So I'm gonna play some really atrocious TFT while doing all this stuff.
No worries, bro. No worries.
Yeah, so there's this university team that were not getting on the Newell broadcast, one of the UK student orgs, because their team was extremely mid.
Okay.
And so I said to them, like, yeah, this sucks. I mean, I've got shoutcasting quote-unquote experience because of not knowing, what I'd done was the most minimum anybody could do. And wrote to the Newell and said, hey, these guys are never getting broadcast. Could I take this on? And they just said, sure. I think I might be the only person who's ever done that. And from there, eventually they had a opening in their volunteer casting program come up, and I guess because I was on their radar from having done that previously, they then called me up and were like, hey, do you want to do this? And everything kind of, I'm trying to figure out how to pace the story because it's a long story, but everything kind of goes from there ultimately.
Yeah, so I guess everything just started from from your love of games, I guess. We're playing League.
Yeah.
I know you're a really big fan of like tabletop games and RTS games, right? I saw somewhere that you're an editor and writer for Relic News for a while.
Oh my gosh, you did your research. Amazing. So I kind of grew up as a let me put my dramatic hat front. Grew up as a kind of very nerdy, lonely kid, and one of my escapes was Games Workshop, which was like the stores where people. I sort of used it as a sort of social hangout. I suspect a lot of other kids my kind of age really did as well. And so I got very much into the Warhammer sort of games and things as well when they came out. So Relic News was I came to by way of their forum, because there are forums. The idea of forums doesn't really exist anymore, but they were kind of like the pre-Discord server. And it was specifically for Relic games, of which Dawn of War, a Warhammer game, was the one which kind of got me in there. And I ended up, eventually moderating on that forum and just kind of, it became my social platform growing up. And I eventually ended up going to Canada to visit the Relic News offices. I had hoped at one point to be able to work for Relic because I was like, I'm a huge fan of these guys. Why wouldn't they want someone who's a huge fanboy to work for them?
Yeah.
But it turns out it's actually quite hard to work in Canada if you come from the UK, because you need to have some skills that someone in Canada doesn't have. And
I see.
Surprisingly, that wasn't the case for me.
So I guess, do you think your passion for those types of games, just being passionate for video games in general, do you think it helped your career in esports casting in any way?
Oh, for sure. Like, I don't think I mean, to kind of fast forward the story beyond that point to bring it to TFT.
Yeah.
Sorry, this will become apparent why I'm bringing this up in this context in a second.
Okay.
Is that I just really, when TFT came out, I've sort of been in this area, like real-time strategy games sort of died off, and a lot of the fan base from there went into MOBAs because it's a very similar kind of idea. So seeing TFT emerge, for a while, TFT, when it first came out, I mean, I don't know how long you've been in the scene for, if you've been in from the very beginning, or if you came in a bit later.
I was here from the beginning, because I joined your first tournament when you started it.
Did you?
Yeah.
What? That's crazy.
So I've known like your work for a while, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I had no idea this was the case. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. Well, the thing with the TFT stuff was, I mean, well, you remember then, like as it started out, it definitely wasn't something that seemed like was going to be big as an esport, because suddenly, in the beginning times, I remember, I think it was more like specifically saying like, no, we don't want, like literally just, we don't want this to be an esport. We don't see this being an esport at all.
Ooh, I didn't actually know that.
Well, I mean, I was paying a lot of attention to it at the time, and I hope that that's me remembering correctly, because if I don't, I look like a real jerk. But like, at least, I guess, well, the proof is in the pudding, and in the initial version of TFT, there's no spectator mode. Like a lot of games released with the spectator mode. And this one didn't. And for like, I think 2-3 years, that was the case. So, like, initially, there were some TFT broadcasts being done, but it was such a pain in the ass to do them, because you didn't have, access to any of the tools you'd normally be having for a tournament, like, the spectator mode. Without that, I did a Dignitas stream with, do you remember Akinola?
No, I don't. And hold on. Do you want a Shibata right now, or?
Oh yeah, that'd be great, thank you. What would you like? I've been too busy yapping.
I guess I'll take a Vi. I'll take a Vi, if you see it.
Okay. What? Oh, you're doing a cipher. Ah, sick, nice. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm doing one cross reroll, so I should be able to find that. Let's see. Yeah, so the no spectator mode means that there was some interest from esports orgs, but it just died off because it was such a pain to put on a tournament. Like, you had to get perspectives from every player, or co-stream streams to do it, and like the org just stopped doing it. And I kept on. I'm not sure what the timeline is. Maybe I don't know if you remember exactly what my first tournament was. I can't at this point. But
was it set 3? Me?
Well, so I set up my own tournaments in order to give me something to cast, because I really liked casting TFT, but there was nowhere that was doing it anymore. It's just like, okay, this is not really a viable esports product, so it's just gonna, it's just gonna wither and die. So I kept making those things. The Newell, the same organization I started off with initially, they set up TFT tournaments, but it was a huge thing for them to do it because they had to set up like these incredibly elaborate sort of technology things to be able to capture from every one of the players playing and like put the feed together. And apparently it cost them a bunch of money to do it as well.
Wow.
So they only put on TFT tournaments because they had people in their ranks who really love TFT, but it wasn't a sensible financial thing for them to do, honestly. Like, again, TFT was not set up to be an esport. So when I was working on that project, which I only got because I think it was like one of about 3 people who kept going with TFT as a casting concern, because, why would you?
That's
that
true.
Point. There was nothing going. I had no expectations TFT would ever go anywhere as like a kind of a real thing with a real esports scene at all. Like there was nothing, and so I got picked up to do the Newell TFT stuff just because again there wasn't anybody else doing it. So it was me, a few other people who had an interest in TFT, hadn't done any TFT casting, and then while I was doing it. I'm going to say the finals of the Newell thing, just because it's more dramatic that way, I can't remember. I got messaged by the Observer, and actually, sorry, I really feel like a real jerk for this. I don't actually know your background if you do casting yourself.
Oh, I don't do any casting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the Observer is like the camera person or camera operator in the thing, and it's very unusual. I got one overflow. Right, boop, and a boop, and a boop, and sorry, yeah. So it's extremely unusual for someone who's doing like the camera operating to really sort of interact with the on-screen talent in a meaningful way. In terms of like, it's kind of like almost 2 parallel professions where you're in the same space, but you don't generally, like, the most it would tend to go to would be that if you're on-camera person and like you might make friends with the people you're working with, but in terms of professional, there actually isn't that much crossover. So I got messaged by the Observer, who was doing the Newell stuff, and he started giving me suggestions on my casting.
Wow.
And I was like, what? This is so strange. Like I've done like casting for multiple years at this point. I never had an Observer give me suggestions on my casting. And I was like, these seem like reasonable suggestions. Like, these aren't like crazy suggestions. They're actually pretty. Oh, do you still need that vial? You've got.
Oh no, I'm good.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so this Observer like messaged me and I was like, okay, this is so weird, but yeah, his suggestions seem reasonable, and they don't seem to be mean-spirited or anything, or kind of like that he's talking down to me. Do you know what? I'll try this stuff. And so I tried out the stuff he suggested, and it worked quite well. I said to him, thank you for the suggestions. I didn't say anything about like, that being a really unusual thing, because it felt like that was maybe a bit off to say it to him. But I was like, you know what? I'm surprised. Ultimately, there was no harm done here. I didn't know if. In retrospect, I think if things hadn't developed the way they had, I might have been best off to say to him like, I would maybe be a little careful about doing that in the future, just because some people would not take that well. But anyway, what did happen was it turns out that the person who was doing the observing was actually the person who was actually the product. I'm trying to remember his title because I always forget. There's so many similar titles, like product manager, like product director for the EMEA TFT stuff. So a guy called Carlos or Kai.
Okay.
So he was not, he was not just a person doing the observing for that time, but he was like the guy in charge of everything. So I'm really glad I was polite to him when I could have otherwise been like, "Hey, you guy, stop telling me how to do my job, huh?" Wow. I mean, it could have happened. I mean, I try not to be like that, but it's not impossible. So somebody might have done the same thing. So at that point, I got pulled into to fill in a spot which opened up on the EMEA broadcast, and kind of everything went crazy from there. And that was my first ever like thing of that caliber. and doing the Worlds broadcast with them, with GG Tech and the rest of the stuff, has been my first time operating on that level at all. So it's been really wild, kind of what went from sticking around in TFT to to getting to this point.
Yeah. Let me send you a gift. Do you want 9 gold or random component?
Oh, random component. I didn't realize you could get random components.
Yeah, they changed.
I haven't played enough double up.
They changed this. It's like a new system, so if you haven't played recently, that's probably why.
Yeah, I've played a lot of double up before, but I haven't been playing. I play a lot of double up with a guy called Greyheart, who's another UK caster. But we haven't been playing in the new set, so side thing. I'm so happy that double up is actually getting development time and attention.
I know, same.
Sorry, I maybe read too many of Mort's tweets, but like there was a tweet he posted where again, I'm kind of quoting someone where I don't have the source for this, so if I'm saying this again, anything I say which I'm quoting to Mort, which turns out that he never said, I do apologize for. But I seem to recall him say like, double up, I don't think anyone's looked at that for a while. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense, honestly. Given what the state of double up was in. Oh, would you like 2 4-cost champions, I guess random, or a component anvil?
I'll take 2 4-costs.
Yeah, that could be.
Thank you.
Oh, what do you get?
Ooh, that's a
good? Oh, sick. Oh, nice choice.
So, yeah, what did Mort say at double up?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so he basically just said like something to the effect of, yeah, no one's really been looking at that for a while. And I was like, yeah, no, that tracks, honestly. Like double up has been stuck in workshop mode for quite a long time with no real changes to it. So seeing this come in and seeing like UI updates and all this sort of stuff going on, it's really good. And having the spectator mode in as well means that I think there's a good argument to be made that TFT is actually a better team game than it is a singles game.
I think it is too.
With double up. Yeah, I think with double up coming in, this will be the first chance to really see that be realized. And I don't know if maybe there's a 4v4 like version of double up that comes up at some point if double up is successful, but I hope so.
Yeah, that'd be great. You said that you were one of the few people to commit to TFT casting, but how did it feel to be one of the few to, I guess, take that risk?
So what I needed to do, and I don't know if I would recommend this to anybody else, was I had to make my peace with the idea that TFT would never go anywhere. Like, as I was doing my own broadcasts, I was like, you know what, TFT, there's no sign that TFT is doing anything esports-wise. And it doesn't seem like Riot are taking it very seriously as an esports game. I have to be willing to do this and enjoy it just for what it is, rather than what I would hope it could be. And so once I made my peace with that, I was okay with it. I was like, I'll keep going with this as long as I enjoy TFT. And I really enjoy TFT, so I just kept going with it. But yeah, I would probably not recommend other people to do that unless you like, if you generally really enjoy like a game which hasn't got a casting scene, then sure. But I think I would not follow the path I followed because the chances of that working out were 0. Like I would say as close to 0 as it could be. I think I just got absurdly lucky.
I mean, I feel like you deserve it. Your casting has been just really nice. It accompanies like TFT gameplay super well. So yeah, and then I guess you've covered so many different games over like your casting career, right? You got TFT League, and then maybe not professionally, but you also casted games like Blood Bowl and Modern Combat 5. But
oh man,
those games have different pacing and gameplay. Do you change your approach based on each different game, or do you just like stick with like one core casting style, regardless of the game?
Just want to take a moment to just thank you for recognizing Blood Bowl. That game was so much fun to cast. I think you can still cast that game, but I got to get paid to cast Blood Bowl, and that's one of my great career achievements. So I never do anything else. I will still be happy that someone paid me to do that. Oh, what did you send me? Oh, sick, a 3-star Vega. Nice.
Yep.
I should be sending you stuff as well.
I don't really.
What do you want?
Just get me my 2 stars, I guess.
Okay.
I don't really have anything I want.
Oh, you got the 2-star Zeri already. Damn. Okay, so like a Sejuani, I guess would be ideal.
Yeah, Zed, Renekton, anything.
Alright.
Yeah.
Okay. I should be moving off of my kind of reroll stage then, thanks to you getting the Vega in. I can start moving up into levels where I might actually find something relevant.
Nice. Yeah, so...
What were we talking about? Oh yeah, so
yeah.
other games, yeah. So I did League of Legends for a really long time. Eventually I had to give up on that because it's so hard to succeed professionally as a League of Legends caster. And that's when that's the point where I went into TFT and said, you know what, I'm going to put all of my attention on TFT casting because, you know, honestly, League of Legends, I've had some good experiences, but it didn't seem like it was going anywhere professionally.
I see.
So in terms of different styles of casting, I'd say the ones which stand out the most are, I'd say CS is the one which I've done the most of outside of League of Legends and TFT, which is the most distinctly different. Because League of Legends, you know, has its phases, you know, the early game, mid game, late game, kind of thing, where people sort of understand what's going on there. But for Counter-Strike, it feels like it's much more like a traditional broadcasted sport, in that you've got a bunch of rounds, so you've got a much more definitive kind of flow to the game, where you're going to be, oh, so we've got the opening round, that's pretty similar to what you see in League of Legends, but then you can sort of see a flow of, there'll be some rounds where it's not expected for a team to do something super significant, so you can kind of bring down the, you know, the tone of the conversation and stuff, and just having everything divided up into, you know, into the series of rounds, I think makes for a really, really different experience. And I really like it. I think it's a great game to cast, just because it's much more structured than a TFT or CS game would be, which are only really divided by their stages rather than, you know, having a distinct... It would be like if every stage your whole board got sold and you had to start over again.
Ooh.
Like that kind of thing would be what I would mean by being a sort of distinct stage, where it would be maybe you scored your HP each stage, like where you were. Like if you're the top player, you score 4 points, bottom player you score 0 points or something, and it just wipes your board and starts everyone over from the same point again. Like that would be more like a CS model, which, like, that sounds really weird, that idea, but like that is a conceivable model that you could do to make it work well for an esports, that you just kind of reset the situation. Rather than having a sort of snowballing thing, which League of Legends and TFT tend to do, that a player who's doing well oftentimes will be rewarded for doing well, and so carry on doing well without there really being so much of a rebound or catch-up mechanic in it.
Yeah, that was a super good analogy, like just losing your board after every stage. But TFT doesn't have that, unfortunately, right? There's super slow moments in the early game, super chaotic moments in the late game, and I guess everything in between. How do you keep like the energy up and the viewers engaged during like the slower moments of TFT when there's not, it's just like the early game, people are open forwarding or lost streaking or whatever?
So I'd say the person I talk to most about TFT casting as an art form is Matt Niberia Condaniel, who unfortunately he's like moved on to, I think, I'm trying to remember exactly what he's doing now, but I think he's a doctor of some kind now, I believe.
Wow.
So doing the reverse medic. But yeah, I mean, he like especially was thinking about it really hard, and we would do these kind of TFT casting skeletons of what we thought should be at different points of the game, and I don't know if I can still find that anywhere. But one thing that used to really annoy me when I was doing some of the other broadcasts is I'd hear other people just kind of like talking about random stuff during the start of the game. And I really fundamentally disagreed with that idea that the start of the game wasn't important, because as a caster, you don't get very much time before the game starts and you're in there. So like, you know, if we're casting together, we maybe get to talk for like 2 or 3 minutes before the game starts, and then the game is underway. And us keeping track of what 8 people are doing in the game is really hard.
Yeah.
So we need to spend the time at the beginning of the game, ideally, foundationing everything that comes later on. So that when it does come up, you know, if we're like, oh boy, Yoshi, TFT is nothing but rerolls at the moment. I can't believe anyone would do anything but play a reroll. And you're like, yeah, absolutely. If I met someone who tried to not reroll, I'd laugh in their face. And then, you know, and later on, someone is running a reroll, and we're like, this guy's crazy! like we've already foundationed that stuff in the early game, so that when it does come up, we can then immediately jump onto it and be like, oh, like we were talking about before. This is not the decision that's being made lightly in this game, and all that kind of stuff. Where we tell with all of this, ideally we're telling the story across the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's very easy to I think ideally, and I'm working on this idea at the moment to try and figure out what separates a co-streamer from a caster.
Yeah.
Like one of the things is in trying to tell longer form stories. Like a co-streamer can generally be more reactive to what's going on. And you kind of get that big moment, particularly with someone they know doing well, and they can get really excited about it. But ideally, for a shoutcaster, that you're setting up stories ahead of time and making things which are more than just what you're seeing on the screen, so that you get the bigger picture.
Yeah. Do you want 12 gold or component anvil?
Always components. Always need more. Do you still need anything, by the way? I'm sorry.
No, I'm so strong. I don't really need anything. I guess Zary's.
Alright.
Zary's Zed. The Z's.
Oh, you're gonna try and 3-star them?
I mean, why not? This game seems pretty free. Yeah.
I like that. Cut your jib. Let me see if I can get you one for you. Boop, 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 boop.
Yeah, so you've talked about preparing for broadcasts with Nigeria, right? What would you say is the single most important thing you focus on when prepping for a big broadcast, like Worlds, for example?
It's been something I've struggled with because nobody really teaches you how to do this. I would say that the best place to kind of find information would be to go to traditional sportscasters, because they're the ones who've actually put a lot of time and a lot of thought into this kind of thing. Where I'm kind of, do you want 12 gold or component anvil?
Component anvil. Why not? Thank you.
Alright, nice. Sorry a second. What am I doing? I was just chucking around what I got. There you go. Prepping for big broadcasts. So where I'm at the moment with that is that it's such a big thing that I should try to compress it into a small amount of space that I can think of. I think the big thing which I'm focusing on at the moment is knowing what your overall picture is for everything. Certainly for me, I focused in my League of Legends career on getting a ton of information, like loads of points of data. And I'd always find that I didn't end up using most of them on the broadcast.
Yeah.
So I would say, for me, and anyone who maybe struggles with the same thing, I would say it's best to work backwards and ask yourself a bunch of questions. Like coming into it, they can be really straightforward and obvious questions. In fact, obvious questions are better than clever questions, really. So, again, we're working on the world's broadcast, Yoshi. There are some things we need to have in the barrel and know, just to the point where there's no question about it. For example, who are the favorites coming in? Who are the dark horse players and stuff? And ideally, we work through and kind of give a techie emblem, nice, and get a big picture idea of the whole tournament. And then once we've done all the players in the tournament, and then beyond that point, maybe we get a big picture thing of being in this tournament, what's the big regional stories? Have America's been doing well over these last few championships? Is EMEA been doing really well? And just kind of get all that stuff in place and ready, so that we can then start to build a bigger picture out of those component parts. The way I was doing it was to come at it from the other end, where I can be gathering information, but never really putting it into a big picture, which made it very hard to use on broadcast. Whereas I think the other opposite way around, ask yourself the obvious questions, who are the favorites? If I was watching this, what would I want to know to make this more engaging? And just work backwards from there, rather than, because you can gather an unlimited amount of data without necessarily actually knowing why you're gathering it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So after all that preparation, casting looks super smooth on stream, but I imagine there's a lot of stuff people don't know that's happening behind the scenes. What's something about being a caster that most people don't realize that only you might know or casters might know?
I mean, I think anyone who works in any kind of production stuff will know that almost inevitably something is always on fire in terms of there's never a broadcast or show or anything where stuff isn't going wrong at any given moment. Like, I think that's something that's really, like, non-obvious. Ideally, you don't ever know about that, but like, there is almost never some, you know, the producer like sitting back and be like, "Gosh, I'm so glad everything's working." Like, that just doesn't happen. It's like it would just be that there'll be a certain amount of things that are broken, and then you just have to prioritize which one of those things you get working. And it's like, how long can we go to break for? It's gonna have to be a while.
That does make sense. It seems super hard to just run everything without without anything going wrong. And on that note, have you ever had a cast that went like totally out of control or off the rails, like mid broadcast? Like, I guess in like a more professional setting, right?
I mean, as I said, like every broadcast, there's stuff that goes wrong for it. I guess maybe the way which I'd like to sort of take this one would be, I'm trying to think of like the specific time. I'm struggling to draw the ones to mind, but the times which I feel most warmly about are. So I guess like the continuation of that idea, because I'm not trying to be negative with that. In fact, I'm trying to be the opposite of saying that the fact that the people are able to make these shows work despite the fact that there's stuff always on fire is really impressive. And when you're backstage and you see like, okay, the observer feed's broken, the like one of the players has just fallen ill, like, and you know, the referee has just quit, and like all this stuff is going on. Everyone's like, okay, how can we like just being in that space and seeing like these incredible people like make it work. Like on the broadcast, it's hard to do that well, and it's really cool when it does happen. Oh, we won the game, great.
Yeah.
But seeing everybody else working and being like, okay, we can like bring in this segment to cover for time, and we can kind of do this other thing. And from a viewer's perspective, you see none of that going on, but just the whole like production unit working in unison to to calm those fires and to make the best possible broadcast it can be. Like under those circumstances, it's a real privilege to be able to see professionals doing professional things and like making it work. It's really cool.
Yeah, that sounds super impressive. I guess the game finished already, but let me ask you let me ask you one or two more questions. I wanted to ask you the same question you asked Niberia in your esports interview, right? As someone who has almost
gosh.
As I watched the entire thing, it was super interesting. But
I know, I really recommend people watch that. I really want to get another interview with him. He's like genuinely one of the most thoughtful casters I've ever come across.
Yeah, no, it was just so insightful. But as someone who has almost a decade.
Sorry, just one more thing I want to put there about Niberia.
Okay.
For your viewers, Google Arena of Valor Caster School. He was on that game show. And if you're a caster, watch that because it's amazing. Sorry.
Yeah, go check it out. But as someone who has almost a decade of casting experience, what advice would you give to aspiring casters, I guess, trying to break into esports? Doesn't have to be TFT, just esports in general. What's one piece of advice?
I like that you put in one there, because like, he's gonna start going again. I'm trying to think, because God, that's really hard because there's so many different like pieces. I suppose this more reflects on what I'm thinking about at the moment. Than I won't give like the obvious stuff just because I think that's already kind of been touched on already. I'd say look after yourself is the most important advice for casters coming in, because it's a very hard thing to get into, and for quite a long time it won't be financially rewarding. It may never be financially rewarding. So I think just spending the time to make sure that how you are engaging with casting and what you are doing is something that you enjoy and that you are kind of getting a good experience out of it. Like it's really easy to sort of neglect that and think, no, if I take on this 12-hour cast for no money, my career will take off in some indecipherable way. But like, I would just say, like, yeah, it's a very hard profession to be in. So I'd spend time like, get in therapy, Like, make sure that your mental is really good getting into casting, because it's a high stress and high rejection area, much like acting is. So you really need to be in the right headspace to thrive in it, because it is a hard thing to do, and it takes a long time to get anywhere.
Wow, that's an amazing response. Before we go, anybody you want to shout out, or anything you want to plug? Just because I know you're hosting a double up tournament really soon, right? Yeah.
I know, I'm on brand with you. Isn't it amazing? Yeah, I'm gonna check my own dates here just to make sure. Yeah, so on the 19th. So I'm not sure when this video is going to be released, but it's Saturday the 19th of April. Will be the first ever double up tournament that I have run. I think some other orgs are also running their first double up tournaments on the same day, which is a little helpful. But I think everyone's excited to get the first double up tournaments done, just because we've been waiting for this for years. So yeah, absolutely. Shout out to myself, Counters Casual Competition on the 19th of April. tiny.cc/CCCTFT will take you to the sign up form. Ha! Look at me branding. Other than that, I guess it would be to particularly the people I've met through TFT, especially, just because that's so much more recent. Of course, we were talking about Niberia being an incredible guy. Helps me enormously as a caster, and Petrus, Pan, and Weta too. Like from doing the TFT time, and and from the production people as well, Carlos and Pandala and people, just like the amount I've learned and grown from that experience has been amazing. And to go back to what sort of things for new casters coming in, it's very possible to go from being a caster who's unsure of themselves and unsure if they should even keep on casting, like I was at the time, to suddenly having this big break happen and getting to work with incredible people and growing massively. Like when I started off with the TFT stuff, I was really scared of doing just talking to a camera as an interview subject, and then coming back and doing future championships and just seeing myself grow for that. Like as much as I was kind of putting people off with my previous answer, I would say, like, through casting, you can grow so much as a person to the point you don't recognize yourself with the stuff you'll become comfortable doing. So yeah, just the whole GG Tech experience, I think that's my main shout out, everyone involved in that.
Wow. Well, I guess that's it for the interview. Thank you for coming along.